Nobody gets you ready for Utah football more than the KSL Sports Zone.
Ready?
Kyle Whittingham and the Utes are back at home for a showdown against Arizona State. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us a part of your day. Ben, you mentioned one of the more compelling games of the weekend that came to us from the Big Ten. And we saw the UCLA Bruins and what that team was made of week one against the Utes, and it was not a real compelling game. No, they have made a coaching switch, and the guy they have put as an interim, I think, is really good. He was the interim coach at Fresno when Jeff Tedford stepped down. Like he's actually not bad. And then you put Neuheisel's kid in an offensive coordinator, and all of a sudden you upset the 7th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions, who I honestly believe just lost the Oregon game twice.
I think you're exactly right.
And because I don't know what this says about UCLA other than what I'll get to here in a second. James Franklin, though, has made a long career of being slightly above average, and I wonder when that's going to
catch up to him
at a place like Penn State, where he's like, listen, you have a lot of built-in advantages at Penn State. You should be able to play winning football there and maybe get over the hump once in a while. That's really what Joe Paterno did throughout his career, and he won a ton of games there, but he got over the hump once in a while, but he was good for a long time, till arguably a little bit there at the end. Mm-hmm. But that's what James Franklin's been. He's been a good team in the Big Ten who doesn't beat the great teams in the Big Ten.
Yep.
But he also doesn't lose these types of games all that much. But this one might really damage him because people were grumpy about the not beat Oregon because he can't beat the good teams. But if you want to look at it a little sympathetically for Penn State, I think they lost the Oregon game twice. And UCLA decided to let Nico, who is a good player, win the game for him.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a recipe for that. But I do think it's a warning sign to all college football programs. UCLA and what happened. Here's why.
Okay.
You cannot let your program be so pathetic that minor, insignificant things are the greatest thing to ever happen to your program. Like your program should never be so bad that you're carrying Rick Neuheisel's 17-year-old kid off the field. I mean, he was cleaning the John yesterday, and now he's your offensive coordinator. Uh-huh. That doesn't mean that things are going well.
Sure. UCLA is not fixed.
And did you see that all 15 people at the Rose Bowl stormed the field? Uh-huh. That was the biggest clown joke I've ever seen in my life. Like 10 people. Uh-huh. It's one thing where UVA, they almost trampled somebody to death, and there's like 30,000 people on the field, and you're like, whoa, I mean, boy, those guys were passionate. There's like 10 people on the field. Everybody's still walking around like it was just some other postgame.
More players on the field than fans.
And all the fans from the stands. Like, never let your program get so pathetic that these things happen. That you're storming the field after an unexpected conference win. Mm-hmm. And that you have so few fans
that you can't
that
tell.
Actually storming the field looks really stupid.
Yeah.
And then you're carrying off the 10-year-old offensive coordinator because he actually has enough of a brain to give the football to the one player that's actually good on your team. Uh-huh. That's where UCLA is. That's where the mighty Bruins are.
Yes, it's your guy, 0-0, going into overtime against Wake Forest. Cheering. Yeah. Is it Beamer? Who was it?
Frank Beamer.
Yeah, Frank Beamer cheering going into OT, tied 0-0. Yeah, it's carrying Rick Neuheisel's kid. And look, it was a great win.
Off the field like he were Johnny Unitas.
In all honesty, that's the type of win that those players will remember for the rest of their life. And understandably so. We were the worst team in college football. We beat a top 10 team, or at least a team that was ranked top 10. They're going to be 20, 25. They might be out of the rankings after they're out of the rankings.
Yeah, they should be.
And rightfully so. But And while you say, well, that's a great memory to make, the memory should be, hey, we were a very reasonable team because we're UCLA and we play in this huge stadium and we're in the Big Ten and et cetera, et cetera. We've got all these opportunities. So it's a little bit of a give and take there.
It is kind of the beauty of the sport that the bar does move, and you can still have those elated feelings even when your team is crappy. But I remember Utah State won a game when Riley Nelson was a freshman, and I'm trying to remember who they beat. And they carried Riley out on their shoulders. And it was because it was like their one win of this season. They won like one game, and they're carrying the quarterback out on their shoulders. It's like, never let your program get so down that you kind of look silly for celebrating really minor things, you know? Coach Witt gets that bowl eligible, you know, that sort of thing. And it's like, that's where the program was at the time. Is that was a big deal to get back to being bowl eligible. But it's just a lesson to never let your program get truly, truly down, I think.
I'll be curious where Penn State goes from here. I'm with you. James Franklin makes $10 million a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the highest paid.
No.
He's got to be one of the 4 or 5 highest paid
They
coaches
could
in all of
find
college
another
football.
James Franklin at Penn State. You can find somebody competent enough to run a good program. But if they're going to contend for national titles, I don't think he's the guy. I don't know who is, but I don't think it's him.
They will play Northwestern and Iowa. And then, of course, the Big Ten toughens up. You got to play Ohio State, who's very good. You got to play Indiana, who's been really good this season. So it's going to end up being a 4 or 5 loss team. And at that point, the people who are paying you $10 million a year start to wonder, why are we paying you $10 million a year? Or worse, giving you X million to go and pay players.
I think
and
that's
you can't
the big
win
one.
with them. That's probably the issue.
That's the issue. Is now the boosters have more power than ever. And boosters aren't patient historically.
Right. It's their money.
So,
they want quick returns.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, if I was just flushing money down the toilet for a football program, I'd want returns too.
Yeah.
Meaning wins, because I guess you're not giving that money for your health. Certainly not for investment purposes.
Yeah.
Even back in the old days, you get your name on the building or something if you donated that to the university.
Right.
Now it just goes up in smoke.
Yeah, you give it to a player and he may play, he may not play.
Maybe good, maybe not.
Yep.
Strange world we're living in, Ben.
Big 12 overall, I thought, had a strange weekend. Had one of the more interesting weekends I thought we had seen. And we had talked about how this was not maybe the most exciting weekend of the season, just because I didn't think the matchups were particularly good. But some outcomes that I thought were legitimately surprising, including the one that I made fun of last week and was proven totally wrong about, which was Cincinnati absolutely crushing Iowa State.
Yeah, the way they did it was eye-opening. Iowa State had the injuries, blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe we should not be surprised that Cincinnati won the game. But the way they won the game was very un-Iowa State-like.
It was.
You know, I'm trying to bring up the team stats, but it's not. I looked at them earlier, and it's, let's see how many rushing yards. 264 rushing yards for Cincinnati. And I would not have predicted that Iowa State got run over. It's not usually how they lose.
No, 24-21 is how they lose games.
Yeah,
they don't lose 38-30.
And you have injured corners. That would be one thing if you got carved up, but that's not what happened. They got out-physicaled. They got run over.
It's also interesting to see, not to jump away from that game, because I think that's the most pertinent game of the weekend, but Colorado jumped out to another hot start against, I know it was 0-0 after one, but they were up 14-0 against TCU as well, just like they were against BYU, and then TCU rallied back.
See, Colorado's not hapless. I don't think they're one of the better teams in the conference, but they're not hapless. Like Oklahoma State is hapless.
Get nowhere to go. Yeah, can't improve. Doesn't have the tools. I do think there's some interesting tools at Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado's not. They're not good. They're just not dead in the water. Like West Virginia appears to be dead in the water. Oklahoma State appears to be dead in the water. I don't throw Colorado into that category.
I think I'm with you. I think that's a dangerous team. They will probably surprise somebody with a good win before the end of the year.
Houston still doesn't have an offense.
Right.
But Texas Tech, hey, I'll give it to the old Red Raiders. Their defense is something.
They have emerged as the best team in the Big 12.
Oh, they're not getting my number one vote.
You're going with Iowa State again?
No, I'm going with Cincinnati.
Okay.
We got the best win in the league, Ben. You were telling me that Texas Tech had the best win in the league forever. Well, no longer.
Nebraska to start the year. Was that Cincinnati's lone loss, I think, early in the season?
Welcome to number one.
Okay. Hey, that's a good win. Cincinnati's playing well. Cincinnati obviously is going to be a team that you're going to have to take seriously as well. And, you give up that many points, you give up 30 points, you're susceptible to losing. But if you can score 38 you're going to have an opportunity to win a lot of games. So.
Noah Fafita threw it all over Oklahoma State. I'm sure you're not giving them any credit.
Well, no. I mean, Oklahoma State's, like you said, hapless.
You know what I've decided Oklahoma State really is an example of, and Mike Gundy too, if you want to go down this road a little bit. We don't have to dwell on it too much, but you and I both have relished, and this is more college basketball than college football, but relished a little bit these old-timer cheaty coaches who can't cheat anymore, and then all of a sudden are being exposed as like maybe not geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's his name? Coach Cal instantly comes to mind, where it's like, you had more resources and were able to cheat for years. Now everybody can cheat, and you don't appear to be such a genius. And I do think that there are other examples of that. We've talked about it, right? Oklahoma State cheated forever. And that's the thing, that was the T. Boone Pickens relationship.
Right.
Mike Gundy was T. Boone Pickens' guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason he's been the head coach for 20 years, is because he was T. Boone's dude.
Mm-hmm.
T. Boone, the old man croaked at the absolute wrong time, because his death coincided with the change in college football.
It did.
And I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I got to imagine that all that dough is still being donated to the university. But now, instead of being in control of T. Boone himself, the old man, who's like, hey, Mike, take this $100,000 and go get us a quarterback, instead of that being the name of the game. Some trust is controlling it, I'm sure, and it's now going to the science department or whatever. And when Mike Gundy is complaining about only having $7 million, you and I both thought, God, how could that be? Oklahoma State has always been flush with dough. What are you talking about?
Great facilities, whatever they need.
All the stuff. And you know what? They probably don't have a guy anymore.
Now it's Slim Pickens.
Now it's Slim Pickens at Oklahoma State. And Mike Gundy wasn't able to adjust. And now all of a sudden, when he doesn't have the benefactor and doesn't have the rules to cut, now it's being exposed that, well, maybe the run there at Oklahoma State wasn't quite so much your genius.
Right. You had built-in advantages that people couldn't see, or that people could see but couldn't prove.
If it weren't for Uncle Phil at Oregon, they would still be a bottom of the Pac-12 university,
Yep.
And Uncle Phil is still with us. And now the rules have changed, and Uncle Phil is playing that even more to his advantage. Mm-hmm. I wonder if the old man were still alive at Oklahoma State, if this situation would be different. Right. And Mike would have a $20 million budget and not a $7 million budget. They haven't found another benefactor. But maybe Mike Gundy wasn't the genius everybody thought he was.
I think that's totally fair. And I also think, the game moves and the game changes. It's interesting with Witt and Utah. And, one of my big thoughts today, because Utah's starting to get ready for Arizona State, which is a good football team and has a very young head coach. I honestly kind of thought, I wonder if Witt still has it.
Well,
and I don't mean that I'm not putting Witt in the Gundy space. So clearly Gundy didn't have it anymore. I think Witt still resonates. I think Witt can still coach. The question is Witt still at the level of the guy who was getting his teams to the Rose Bowl?
Well, the reason Witt was successful was different than Mike Gundy.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to vouch for anybody running a clean program, but I don't necessarily think Witt was going around town buying players when that was not legal to do so. I think Witt was successful for other reasons. My question with Witt is, now that Utah does not have a resource advantage in its region, does that...
It actually has a resource disadvantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that success continue? Mm-hmm. Because Utah in the Pac-12 era was able to hold that over BYU and Utah State for that matter. Big time.
Yeah.
And they had way more financial resources than did BYU, because they were getting the Pac-12 TV money and could actually use that in the program, whereas BYU has a lot of outside money and could not use that. Mm-hmm. And now that not only is BYU in a league, but the same league as Utah, and now the built-in...
And has way better donors.
And the built-in landscape, which he's been so successful in, has changed. Does that continue? And I would bet on it more to continue than, say, somebody like Mike Gundy, because resources weren't really the reason Witt was entirely successful. Maybe that competitive advantage had something to do with it, but there were other reasons that he was really successful that can be continued.
I agree. And we've got a lot of talent in state.
Right. He's got to be scrambling for dough and probably should be doing more fundraising than coaching. And I don't know if he really wants to do that, but because it does matter. But instead of being flush, they're just in the same spot as everybody else.
Yeah.
And so how do you play that? In fact, way behind resource-wise than the Big Ten and the SEC. So how do you compete on a national scale now when you're operating with a fraction of the resources?
No, it's got to be
both in the program and without.
Yeah, it's got to be really difficult to look around the Big Ten, the SEC, and then the top 5 schools in every conference. I don't mean every. I don't mean the Mountain West Conference, but the top 5 schools in the ACC have more money than Utah does.
You would think so. It depends on those schools, but yeah.
But should at least the top 3. Clemson certainly does. Florida State certainly does. Miami certainly does. Those all have way better financial tools to go and get players and pay their players and coaches.
I don't know if Clemson does, honestly. I get the point you're trying to make, and I'm not trying to disagree with it, but I don't know if I would put Clemson in that category, honestly.
But regardless, the ACC, even if you want to say it's comparable or less than the Big 12, Utah is still, if you were to draft the financial tools at their disposal, if you were to combine those two conferences, Utah's firmly middle of the pack.
Right.
And then, yes, every school in the Big Ten and every school in the SEC, they're well behind just because of the distribution that they have. So it's a really tough spot to be in. Utah's in a tough spot, and that doesn't mean you can't continue to win. You just, you have to. Utah already had to, find some diamonds in the rough and execute, and it was made easier because BYU was at a deficiency financially, and now they're not. It's going to continue to be more and more difficult for the Utes.
No,
So
depending on what the law is.
Yeah, and so I'll be curious what these next couple of weeks look like.
Seeing all these lobbying ads all over college football about certain laws they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Make NIL what? They're trying to circumvent the rules that the NCAA is trying to do?
Yeah.
What a great time. That amateurism thing really sucked. This is so much better.
College sports used to be worse.
Did it?
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm pretty out on the whole product right now.
But which way are you going to vote, Ben? I do love those commercials. They are great.
Yeah.
Well done. Super creative. Really, really land it.
Yeah.
All right, stay tuned. We'll get to more coming up next. It is the Jake and Ben Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's another battle for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone has it covered. It's a battle on the islands as Utah State squares off against Hawaii. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Let's lock in.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben. Want to remind you, nominate the sports volunteer for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination, kslsports.com/contests. Then listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Ben, Coach Witt is doing his presser, or was. Mm-hmm. This coming out of it. Whittingham said none of the injuries against West Virginia were season-ending, and that includes Nate Ritchie, obviously.
It's a good sign.
Yeah,
his knee looked like it went backwards.
Yeah,
so.
And he was playing really well. So you hope that's a thing because it, we talked about it a little bit. Injuries has derailed decent Utah football teams in the past, and you certainly don't want to ever see that happen. And we had that conversation about BYU and Jack Kelly earlier in the show, and that's relevant. You don't want to see teams come up short because of injuries. Think of when Taysom Hill got injured back in the day, a couple of different times, but the one time when they were like 6-0 and they didn't play anybody for the rest of their schedule, and he got hurt against Utah State, and then they went on a 4-game losing streak. I think it's just those are the toughest seasons to watch. And not that that's happened at Utah, but you don't want to see it.
The dynamic is interesting, especially with Jack Kelly, because, he's not worth 3 points a game. That would be absurd. That's an extraordinarily valuable player. But the defense as a whole is worth X amount of points. They prevent you from scoring so much, and that linebacking core specifically is really dynamic at BYU. So if, let's say he is worth 3 points, or that group together is worth 3 points a game, if that's gone at least for a weekend or 2 weekends or whatever, then it has to be made up somewhere else. And, you know, is that Bear Bachmeier who has to go out there and make it up? And I thought against West Virginia, he did. I thought Bear accounted for a lot of points. The throw to Parker Kingston was amazing.
Man, that dude can fly.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. I know he's taking some heat, but
What's he taking heat for?
I think some of his special teams decisions, but he's a good player. He's a valuable player.
Man, he's got to be the fastest player on the team by a mile. Now, no offense to the rest of the team, he can just really fly.
He's fast. Chase Roberts really quick too. But as that dynamic changes and you ask Bear to do more, that's where the season gets interesting, and that's where I think this really opens up. And I hate to be 5 weeks into a season and pretend we don't know anything. We know stuff. We've learned a lot about BYU. But as the now quality of opponent increases, I think somewhat significantly over what's been a weirdly soft start to the season, I'm really curious to see what BYU looks like now going the rest of the way, especially because they're facing more adversity today than they were, you know, at this point a week ago or even, you know, Friday at 6 o'clock.
Here's the conclusion I'll draw on the Bear. He's not completely in over his head. He's shown that he's not completely in over his head. I think that's
Clearly.
fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because we've seen players come in that are completely in over their head. And even some of those players even won games, but still seemed like they won those games.
I mean, Isaac Wilson beat Oklahoma State.
Right.
He's completely over his head last year.
And I'm thinking of also the quarterback before him, who's back on the team now. Why am I going blank? Nate Johnson, where he wrong-footed Baylor, was it?
Uh-huh.
You know, he's shown that he's not in over his head. They've won games and he's made plays and he has not been intimidated by the situation. I thought you made a pretty astute point, and Coach Sitake talked about this too, and some other players, that he was pretty even after the mistakes.
Yeah.
And he hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes yet, so we haven't really seen that, speaking of things that you can learn. And he wasn't devastated by it all and didn't come apart at the seams, which I think is a pretty good sign. So I think that I'm pretty safe in saying, now listen, the narrative can be wildly up and down. Just look at people are now out on Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah, it only takes one game.
People jump on and jump off all the time. But if we're trying to digest it about what we have truly learned about a freshman quarterback who has now started 5 games, he's not in over his head. He made mistakes against West Virginia, but he didn't panic. He didn't do some of those things that we've seen other players do where it goes from bad to worse. That was not him in that particular game, and I think that's a pretty good sign. And he wasn't in over his head in the previous games where he could have been there too.
You could have lost to Colorado if he was in over his head.
Right.
That was a 3-point game that he didn't have a costly turnover in the fourth quarter and allowed his defense to win.
Yep.
Against West Virginia, he didn't allow his defense to win the game for him. I thought he went out and made some throws and allowed BYU to beat West Virginia, who maybe played a little bit better than I expected, and I thought BYU as a whole played a little less competently than I had expected. I thought BYU would look more dominant in that game than they did.
Well, they need to dial up the discipline a little bit, which is, you know.
It's also been an issue all season. They've had a lot of penalties this year.
Well, line up on sides. You know, little basic stuff that like that is kind of inexcusable. You know, I remember we used to talk to Kyle Gunther about this, and sometimes like a after the whistle kind of hit, not like a dirty late hit, but you're going at it and the whistle blows and you still throw him to the ground and you get the 15-yard penalty. Sometimes those plays actually are a good thing, you know, where it means you're being aggressive and you're going right up to the whistle and you pushed it a little far this time and you cost your team and you're probably really bummed about it, but it's not like one of those red flag type penalties. Lining up offsides is a completely inexcusable. There's no defending a flag like that. So
like that?
Show a little more discipline, maybe clean it up. But we'll see. The Bear cannot make those mistakes at crucial times against better teams, and he's going to have opportunities to make plays or make mistakes. And you hope he gets some of the mistakes out of the system. Like I don't think he'll throw an interception that bad. Again, I would guess not right to a linebacker like that.
Yeah, you'd hope not.
Like that?
You'd hope not.
Who just jumps it. He should be smarter than that. That is truly a freshman mistake. That you haven't seen it before. So see how it goes.
But teams also start to learn more about you. You know, what have you learned about BYU playing against Portland State? Probably nothing. What did you learn against Stanford? Probably not a whole lot. What did you learn against East Carolina? Maybe a little bit more. Then you really started to see like where BYU's susceptible, maybe against the run, especially mobile quarterbacks against Colorado. And then I thought Now, not that West Virginia had any other choice, but the true freshman moved the ball pretty well with his legs.
Yeah.
They were able to move the sticks pretty consistently. That's not really Fafita's game. He's quick. He can move around, but he's not going to run the ball like that.
Like that?
But against Utah, that's where all of a sudden you're going to game plan now where Utah says, hey, that's got to be a huge part of our attack. We have to roll out Devin Dampier and let him make plays with his legs because BYU has been susceptible to it, and now you can start setting up other parts of your offense.
Who do we know more about, Utah or BYU?
Utah.
You mean that from a negative perspective?
No, I don't think it's a negative necessarily.
Because the only team they've played, they've lost to, and didn't look particularly good doing it.
Yeah, we know what Utah might be susceptible against.
So we know more about what their shortcomings are than how good they are.
I think that's true. And I don't feel like we know that about BYU as much. And maybe it's just because BYU is good. Maybe they're better than Utah. I think that's certainly on the table.
I don't know if we've seen the offensive. Well, we saw the offensive shortcomings a little bit. We saw the mistakes against West Virginia. But
certainly BYU has not had a measuring stick that I think is as accurate as Texas Tech is.
Well, I think we're going to see Dampier having trouble being accurate downfield the whole season.
Probably so.
You can't have a game like he did against Texas Tech where the other team just gives up on defending the pass. But I don't think he's going to be. If he were a true downfield threat, they would have done it against Texas Tech. That's my point. That was my point.
On the table.
That was the game to win. They were selling out to stop the run in all the crucial minutes or, the crucial parts of the game, and they couldn't do anything about it. I would guess that that's going to continue even though it was better against West Virginia. But again, I'm not really taking the 351 from the Bear against West Virginia. The mistakes were more the story than the success, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've said this, his season's going to be about what mistakes he makes and when.
So much of this job and watching sports in general is just kind of pattern recognition, right? And with Utah, the pattern is can't move the ball downfield with big chunk plays through the air, for the most part. I think Devin Dampier can make some nice throws. He has not been able to get big chunks through the air. That's pretty clear. BYU does have that. And, one of the patterns that we're starting to see from BYU, they even talked about it on the broadcast, but the first play of every game so far has been Bear Bachmeier taking a deep shot. They just keep doing it. And Utah doesn't do it because it seems like there might not be faith that he can actually complete that pass. And Bear can, and actually has the players that can go out there and make those catches. Whether that's Parker Kingston, who's shown he's got the ability to do it. Chase Roberts clearly has the ability to do it. I don't know if A, Dampier can make the throw accurately, and B, if it's Merriweather or whoever's down there, that they're going to catch it even if it's thrown right to him. So that's another issue for Utah. And we've seen that consistently. You can look at the first half against Wyoming, BYU, or Utah could not move the ball at all. And it was really struggled. And then couldn't move the ball at all against Texas Tech. So there are issues there consistently with Utah's offense that point to some flaws. And I don't know if we have seen those with BYU, and that's where the question comes in. Is that because the flaws don't exist or because the teams they have played against are not good enough to expose them? And my guess is the latter. I don't think BYU is a flawless team.
No, I don't either. I don't think, no, I don't think they're flawless. We'll see. It gets harder.
Yeah. So you play Arizona, you play Utah, you play Iowa State, all these teams that they've got coming up, and it gets far more difficult. You get Texas Tech in there. The things you can't do will be exposed, more so than what Stanford or West Virginia has been able to show.
Ben and Christian have a nominee for Bozo of the Week that it's dark. But we'll get to it coming up right around the corner. And we have some call-ins. Oh, all right. Look forward to that. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Let's go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. The Cougars head to Tucson for a battle against the Arizona Wildcats. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Woo!
Two amigos on the airwaves, talking sports. They got him made Jake's and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
I can tell you who's not having a good day today. Lloyd. After that pathetic display of football that his Raiders put on yesterday.
guys are kicking the show off with Taylor Swift and an analysis of her lyrics. Come on, man. You better be sharing some of that NFL money with us if you're going to be doing that. Love you guys, despite this.
Thank you to Larry and Ryan. That was a football tie. Travis Kelce plays tonight. We were just saying he's probably getting clowned in the locker room. That's all. He's having a bad day.
Yeah. There were football ties to Travis Kelce.
And yeah, I hope Lloyd is having a bad day. 40-6.
That was tough.
Against Ben's Daniel Joneses.
Uh-huh. Hey, Indy's for real. Indiana Jones has it. Guy's cooking. Good for
Geno
him.
Smith not.
Geno Smith got paid and has retired. Good for him.
Have we seen Salazar today?
He walked in. I didn't say anything, though. It might be a little early.
Well, we hope he's having a bad day.
I'll give him hell later, though.
Yeah, you definitely should. All right, who wants to do the nominating here? Who wants to set this up? Because we have a nominee for Bozo of the Week.
The obvious thing is it's Mark Sanchez. And it's just one of the craziest, and it's a horrible story. There's nothing funny about the act itself, right? Mark Sanchez, over the weekend, was it Saturday morning? You started to see all these details emerge that, like, Mark Sanchez is in critical condition because he got stabbed in Indiana. And my thought was, what was it? Was it a playoff game? Wasn't there a Pacers fan that attacked somebody?
Oh, yeah.
And
another fan. It was like a Knicks fan.
It was a Knicks fan, that's right.
Yeah, and stabbed him.
And I was like, what is this epidemic of violence in Indiana, specifically with the sports
surrounding
fans?
Sports.
I was like, geez, that place has become unsafe. I've
I had
traveled
money
through
on that
there.
Jets game.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I thought, like, that's so weird. And then the details started to emerge more and more, and people were like, no, Mark Sanchez is going to get arrested for this.
Yeah, they said he may have been the aggressor. That's how the reports evolved. And then the next report was he's been arrested in the hospital.
Because I'm sure I'm not the only person who thought, oh, some drunk fan saw Matt Sanchez, and not to Mark Sanchez, I keep saying that, not to let anyone off the hook for drinking at all. And not Mark either. But thinking, oh, yeah, somebody recognized Mark Sanchez, wanted to fight the biggest guy or the most famous guy in the bar, and then took it way too far and stabbed him. And no.
Not at all.
69-year-old driver who seems to replace oil for kitchens in a hotel.
He's picking up the grease.
Is picking up the grease. And you have to do that after hours because restaurants are open during the day.
You ever seen that Simpsons where what's his name, Willie? The groundskeeper Willie or whatever is hoarding grease for his retirement because they're selling it. It's like, that's my retirement grease. Anyway,
so
69-year-old man in a truck picking up grease.
Mark picks a fight with him for where he parked, tries to get into the cab of this truck, follows the man. The man apparently goes and is looking for security. And we will see. More details will come out. We will get, the surveillance camera. But obviously the cops have seen this already, which is why they're arresting Mark. But Mark follows him, attacks him somehow, and after the guy pepper sprays him, he then or defends himself against Mark Sanchez by stabbing him at least once and sounds like several times. It's just...
But somehow this guy got stabbed in the face,
This guy got his face slashed really badly. And the pictures are bad. It's quite gory. So it's just the weirdest story. And for it to be Mark Sanchez, maybe the quarterback who, A, we would least think this would happen to, and B, to one-up the butt fumble is like what he will be known for, is really one of the all-time twists in sports. Because he should be butt fumble guy. The same way Kalen Clay should be I fumbled at the 1 yard line guy. That's the worst thing that ever happened to me. Was that infamous fumble. One of the most fumbles of all time. And now Mark Sanchez, I'm going to stop saying that. Mark Sanchez is going to be known for something completely different. He's going to be I went to jail guy.
Well, yeah, he shouldn't be caring about what he's known for right now because this is felonious assault.
Yeah, he's getting charged with a felony.
Yeah, right. He's facing prison time. So I bet right now he wishes he was butt fumble guy.
Yeah, right. I wish I could go back to being butt fumble guy.
This takes away, why I don't know if I think this should be Bozo of the Week. Because Bozo of the Week is
usually something silly.
Clownish behavior. This is not clownish behavior. This is a violent man who decided to get violent with some guy who's just trying to do his job, which is just awful and goes way beyond bozo behavior.
You're not wrong, and I totally buy that argument, and that has been a disqualifier for us in previous events already. So we will hope a bigger bozo emerges.
This is like terror behavior.
Yeah, this is a man terrorizing somebody at their job.
Yeah. And it's really sad because...
It's just crazy it's Mark Sanchez.
I think he's got a young family. Mark does.
He's younger than both of us.
He had a great job calling NFL football on Fox.
Millions of dollars.
Well, I don't know. Depends on how he managed that money because he didn't make a zillion bucks
Well, he
in
made
the NFL.
millions of dollars.
Yeah. So he was a guy with a lot to lose. And, you know, not to go back to that Nick Saban thing, but, you know, if you've got a lot to lose, you better let it impact your decision making. Because maybe you just let the grease guy park his truck and you go back to your room.
I'm curious to hear what started this. And again, it
doesn't matter.
Is not
I'm
the
not
reason
curious.
For it.
It does not matter. There is not a justifiable.
There is not
anything.
There's more to this story than Mark Sanchez snapped.
There might not be, honestly.
If that's the story, that's a crazy story. That 38-year-old Mark Sanchez flipped his lid and decided to start attacking random people doing their jobs in Indianapolis.
Ben, 2 people got stabbed in an incident over a parked truck.
Yeah.
It does not matter. There is no justification. It is crazy behavior. What you're saying is true, regardless of if Mark says, well, he gave me the bird or something.
Sure.
It doesn't,
You're right. You're right.
It doesn't make any sort of difference. Have you seen the video of Mark stumbling away? He's actually in surprising good shape, considering he just took a knife wound to the chest.
Oh, I haven't seen this video of him. Oh, he is. He's bleeding.
Profusely.
Yeah, and he is just walking around. My morbid curiosity, I want to know more about this story.
Okay, so that's fair.
I think that's probably what
I
it
like
is.
good tabloids
yes,
too, but there's no...
It's not to justify it.
There is
to
none.
let Mark off the hook, or to say, like, well, that's more understandable. I don't think that's the point.
If that, like, oh, that makes sense. There's nothing that could come out where you'd be like, oh, okay, I would have stabbed that guy too. There's nothing.
Correct. I'm with you. Mark Sanchez, a former professional athlete who's 38 years old, to the point where he has peers, probably from the same draft class, that are still playing. He's still in great shape. Should never have there's no reason ever he would need to attack a 69-year-old man.
And he took mace to the face.
And kept moving.
And kept going.
Like the Terminator.
I'm curious to hear if booze is his only substance that's involved in this thing.
That's a very cogent question.
Because, Ben, you've been overserved before. It has happened. And I bet if somebody maced you in that circumstance, you would have gone down like a sack of bricks. I would too. I'm not
that's
judging.
what mace is for.
Yeah.
It takes bears out.
Right.
Yeah. But not Mark Sanchez.
Honestly, never been maced.
Same. No, I've never seen it. I've never. No.
Yeah.
I'm
Christian?
I'm not big of a troublemaker.
No.
Okay.
Same draft class as Matthew Stafford, by the way.
Okay, yeah. So he's not washed older player. He's washed, but physically, there's no fear for Mark Sanchez in these situations.
You know, you wish sometimes that you were a fly on the wall. I would love to have been a fly on the wall of Mark's boss at Fox when he or she got the call at whatever in the morning that is like, hey, just so you know, you're going to have to replace one of your announcers because Mark stabbed a guy. Took two blows to the chest.
You're starting to advocate for this being Bozo of the Week.
No.
Yeah, you are.
No.
You're selling it.
But I bet you that exec never thought he was going to get that phone call.
Correct. That was not where anyone... That's why this is such a crazy story.
It's like
nobody expected the story to be Brady Quinn got another big break. Career backup Brady Quinn gets another starting job because the quarterback in front of him did something absolutely insane.
Imagine the Mouse waking up one day and they're like, hey, Mickey, Joe Buck stabbed a guy.
Yeah.
That's not a call you expect to get.
Troy Aikman attacks man.
But I do believe that goes beyond bozo behavior.
You're right.
Mr. Mouse, Joe Buck stabbed a 69-year-old man at an Indianapolis bar.
Thank goodness nobody got killed.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. This could have ended so much worse. So.
All right. Way to go, Mark.
Yeah.
He's having a bad day.
Really bad day. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Gets a rain tomorrow.
Hans Olsen and
First
Scotty
appearance
G.
in courts. We'll see how it goes. I'm not excited, but I'm curious to follow this story again.
Okay, we'll see what the follow-up is. Stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next.
Thanks, Christian.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.